Hello and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
Becky, the stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have, for SCP-Cember, The Shape of a Gun. So, The Shape of a Gun is a SCP Foundation tale set in the Apotheosis canon. It was written by CadaverCommander.
Oh, yeah.
And you can check it out at scp-wiki.wikidot.com.
My favorite website.
Yes.
The most confusing website URL ever.
Otherwise known as the main SCP Foundation website.
Mm-hmm.
So before we dive into the rundown and all our thoughts and stuff like that about what we just read, let's do our initial recommendations. I recommend it.
I personally recommend it.
You bastard.
I don't recommend it.
You son of a bitch. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. I am really interested now because I really liked this one. So I am very curious.
As you should be.
Okay. I'm also kind of scared.
As you should be.
Yes. All right. Let's dive into the rundown then. We are thrust into the dynamic escape of Monica Pinkston, a D-class, coded D77777, who has become infested with an entity of SCP-3396, giving her the ability to summon crazy amounts of projectile weaponry, like across the ages of weaponry, of like firearms and guns and like artillery and stuff, and beyond. She blasted her way out of the containment facility and ran for the hills. While resting, she is intercepted by an agent. However, this man from the Foundation has decided to go turncoat and help Monica evade the Foundation. Cut to about a year later, in the city formerly known as Las Vegas, now Old Vegas, Monica, with radio connection to Jake, the man she met in the woods, is fighting a villainous mutant, similar to her situation in that, like, this pale man has apparently either powers derived from or has a creature from an SCP attached to him in some manner. They have this epic confrontation with Monica summoning an orbital laser to try and destroy the warping pale man. And it seems she has defeated him before she passes out. She wakes up in the Oasis Care Center, where we get more on the situation. In the last few months, Monica has become a sort of heroic de facto leader of Old Vegas, which now houses more and more SCP anomaly-affected mutants and their normal human sympathizers. We get a narrative laydown about the various like major players that have sided or like kind of come together with Monica in this little community, including a guy who can reassemble urban terrain, stealthy people who have like many eyes and like can like warp into the shadows and stuff. A red ogreish looking badass guy, and a shifting, biblically accurate angel of human parts with immense telepathic ability named Norman.
Is that what it's going for? A biblically accurate angel?
That's what was going to my mind. Either like it's either like a biblically accurate angel kind of creature, or like a Shoggoth meets a flying polyp, but with a person's personality.
Yeah. It just had like a whole bunch of like meat just floating around, like a whole bunch of hands with eyes in them and shit.
Yeah, so a biblically accurate angel.
I mean, it's rings of eyes, but yeah.
I mean, well, that's the thing. Like the rings of eyes is the most common one. That's just one type of angel. There are different types. Like again, like biblically accurate angels are terrifying.
Yes. Look it up if you guys aren't aware.
Yes. And it's actually become like kind of a meme where it's like when somebody like does like some crazy like online art of like just somebody with or something or somebody with too many eyes and hands and arms and all that. It's just biblically accurate ... So, but I digress. So yeah, his name is Norman. Or no, all of this while the people are eating in the cafeteria of the center. While Monica is having a pleasant and wholesome chat with Norman, Norman suddenly alerts everyone that the Foundation army is at the city's doorstep. And Monica basically sets up preparations to confront the Foundation's army. Sometime later, the defenders of Old Vegas stand defiant against the Foundation's army, who want to contain them, weird, and abolish this city of mutants and mutant sympathizers. To which Monica proclaims a war cry in defense of the free city of Vegas, and her defenders follow suit against the army. And that's where the story ends, for the time being. I'm not sure if there's going to be more, but that's where this story ends. So, I suppose we shall move on to Everyone Tolerates the Graham Inquisitions! At this point, I've got a few. I'm going to start with this one here. Jake said, though, her earpiece. So I think it needs to be Jake said through her earpiece.
Yes.
And then apparently this is my next and last one. Multiple copies of himself as he had looked before his mutation also made occasional appearance, popping into space and then fading away. I think the appearance needs to have an S at the end, so it's like also made occasional appearances.
Yeah.
Popping in. Yeah. So. And that's my grammar inquisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
I have a conjunction junction.
Okay. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
But the rest of her didn't want to. And worst of all, she was nowhere near as alone as she wanted to be. But a computer somewhere had elected to make her inescapably noticeable, with 5 black 7s embedded in the orange of her back like so many fishhooks. So people naturally assumed that she had to be interesting. So they gravitated to her like moons around a planet. But no. But convincing the rest that she really was a shit-piece waste of skin wouldn't have made anything better, so she kept her mouth shut and did her best. And then it had pissed her back out. It was like smoke and iron filings in her blood. And in its place had been left an arsenal. It had taken all her frustration, all her hatred, her misery and doubt, and blackened determination, everything that she was as a human person, and smelted it into a shape. And she had used them to escape. And they had tried to stop her. But every impact of their bullets upon her skin was just a hammer driving down on the blasting cap of her soul. And they died trying to make it so. And so she was alone, but for the thing that had nestled deep within the superfluous molded meat of her body. And then she realized that even with infinite firepower behind her eyes, she didn't have a fucking lighter. And then there was a blowtorch in her hand. It blocked out the sun, howling and smoking and torturing the air with its heat. So she let it out. It punched into the earth and obscured everything from view, blinding and terrible, vaporizing everything in its path. But the equipment worked. There was electricity, and she had hired actual doctors that were willing to do their work in Old Vegas despite the inherent danger. And one table, all the way at the end, was occupied by a loner. And she supposed that still held true, but she really wasn't sure. It was a profoundly surreal and sometimes unsettling experience, but Monica had gotten used to it. Its mouth didn't move when Norman spoke. It continued eating. But he made up for it with an image of sunshine and happy, colorful flowers, and a feeling of pleasant warmth, which he shoved directly into her mind without her permission. It wasn't a question. And Jake was just behind her, quietly calculating, his assault rifle trained directly upon the Foundation commander's head. And Monica let herself be wielded by the heart of her people, her soul forged into the shape of the tool they needed to defend their homes and lives from those that would take them. Finn.
Man, that was a journey. Because at the beginning when you were like, there's a lot of like its ends or buts at the front of at the very beginning, like the first like kind of I guess intro bit where she was escaping.
Mm-hmm.
So I was worried that like, oh man, he's like gonna find like there's gonna be like a bunch of them, I guess, like throughout the rest of the story. But then it just cuts away to the cafeteria, and then to Norman's conversation, and then suddenly Jake has a gun pointed at a Foundation army general.
Yeah,
it's just like Jesus.
In the cafeteria, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, and then Jake's out there behind her at the window of the cafeteria with the gun out the window, pointing at a Foundation army general that's nearby.
He's probably like standing up against a wall with a blindfold on and a cigarette in his mouth as the general's about to be executed by him or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And when it brought up the part with the torch earlier, which is like, it didn't even have a lighter, then all of a sudden there was a torch in her hand. It blotted out the sun. He dropped it and it incinerated everything in its path. Which made it sound like it was falling, like burning through the ground.
Yeah, it's like the most epic, powerful blowtorch.
Yeah.
Just to light her her cigarette.
Yeah. Burrowing a tunnel to China because of it now.
Yep.
Yeah, and for those unaware, like he does these strings of sentences to highlight all the sentences in the story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ands, or but, because there's always better words.
Indeed. And Gamer, you're up now.
No, I'm not.
You have nothing for Grammar Inquisition?
No.
Okay. All right, then I guess we move on to actual thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with this thing here. After half an hour of walking through rocky scree and dry trees, Monica realized that she was not in Manhattan. Scree, a collection of broken rock fragments at the base of a cliff or other steep rocky mass that has accumulated through periodic rockfall. Thanks, Wikipedia. I learned a new word today.
Yeah, me too.
Or like a new term for like geology or like geography. Because I was like, what the hell's scree? But
yeah, I thought it was a typo at first.
Yeah,
I thought it was a typo or something at first.
Yeah, but like now I have a name for that because I know exactly what it is now, and like I've seen it, and I have context to that, like in my own life, like or like from what I've seen in like movies and like National Geographic and stuff. So, also, damn, that is some tunnel vision, Monica. Not realizing you're in Manhattan, or this isn't Manhattan. Either that, or it's like I don't think I'm in Kansas anymore. Like, is it that kind of like term, or like turn of phrase?
I don't know.
Because it's like, yeah, I mean, clearly she's in like a rocky mountain like forest area, That's clearly not Manhattan. It's like, I don't think I'm in Kansas anymore. I don't think I'm in Manhattan anymore. It is a little weird.
Stating the obvious.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we wouldn't have context of where she was.
I guess,
Before.
yeah. I mean, she could be in like north of Manhattan. Like, to me, I got the sense that she was like on the West Coast. I don't know why, but I forgot like also like that there was even trees and forests and stuff. So I just assumed she was out in the desert because she escaped a Foundation containment facility. And I just assumed those are all in deserts or somewhere where you can't escape, where you can't find shelter or like cover very easily if you escape.
There was a primer for this.
There was, yes, and yeah, you're right.
Sure.
There was never. I know. My memory was very shot for a second.
Okay.
But yeah, regardless, yeah. And then the next thing I have here, there was something inside her, and this is a link to SCP. Like those words, there was something inside her, are a link to SCP-3396. So guess what we're doing next week, guys?
Wait, was a URL in here?
Yeah, there was.
I did not see that.
Yeah. The words, there was something inside of her, or a hyperlink to the SCP entry 3396, which kind of just goes in and explains like what the origin of her powers are, and like what SCP gave her abilities. But yeah, we'll be doing that next week, guys.
Can't find it.
All right, it's at the beginning.
These URLs on scp-wiki.wiki.com. God damn. They hide them so much.
I know.
There it is.
It was even isolated.
It's like it's so close. It just has a very slight maroon hue.
I know. I hate it. I gamer, like, this is the one. I don't know if this is a CadaverCommander issue or if this is an SCP Foundation issue, but like, if you're gonna put a hyperlink like that, please, we've said it before, we'll say it again, like a choir of angels. Please bold the hyperlinks in your entries and stories where there are hyperlinks to another SCP entry.
It doesn't necessarily have to be bold. It could just be, a color that isn't just off black.
The problem with that, especially for this story, is that there are several instances in the story where there are colored words that I immediately thought were also hyperlinks, but whenever I pass them by, it's like, oh, they're not hyperlinks. That's weird. I guess it's just for the format that CadaverCommander is using for like different dialogue and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, please just put it, just make it bold. Like that's.
I make them all underlined because they get underlined when you highlight them anyways.
Underlined would also be acceptable, but yeah, that was just me kind of segueing, kind of hinting that what we're doing next week, because we're gonna cover the entry of SCP-3396.
Yeah, when you're doing the rundown and you're saying very
specific things.
Yeah, very specifically, like this. The reason that the powers are what they are is because of 3396. How do you know specifically? Like, I know at the bottom it says the previous story was that, but there's no proof.
Yeah.
Oh, but there is.
Oh, there is. Is that part of like why you don't like the story, or why you didn't?
No.
Why you're not going to reckon? Okay. Well, I'll move on. It had taken all her frustration, all her hatred, her misery and doubt and blackened determination, everything that she was as a human person, and smelted it into a shape. The shape that had hammered her life to pieces and defended the shards again and again. The shape that represented what she was to the world. The shape of a gun. Credits.
Yeah, literally.
A little bit, yeah, just like, again, that whole shtick of just like, you name drop, you title dropped. Which is funny because the story does that at the end. But I digress. Moving to the next thing here. She had thousands now, millions. Pistols, rifles, grenade launchers, howitzers, cruise missiles, and other things that the human animal had not yet been able to imagine. Great expanses of black powder, Rivers of bullets and endless fields of firearms now rested in a space just behind her own life, and she had used them to escape. You know, I'm beginning to see an Americana trend with CadaverCommander entries and stories. It's not exact. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but like I'm just noticing like there's I think every entry or story that like CadaverCommander has made has been like very like has had like some aspect of Americana, like fast cars, explosions, bullets and guns.
Right, what you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think CadaverCommander is also behind the trucker, like that Eldritch trucker guy.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like, and like again, like I'm not like saying anything bad really about it. It's just I like that we have like continuity with the like we know what the flavor of CadaverCommander is when it comes to SCP entries. Like it's gonna have something to do with like Eldritch Americana.
Night Hauler, that was the truck guy.
Yeah, the Night Hauler, yeah. And even like to a degree, if you want to kind of go into this will kind of segue into some stuff that I have moving forward in my my notes here. Even like heroic comic book style kind of things, like this whole superpower kind of supervillain superhero kind of aspect of this story also is kind of Americana in a way because of like, you know, Superman and like the DC comics and the Marvel comics and stuff like that. Which I kind of got a vibe off of, and I'll elaborate more on that in my notes here.
Funny you bring up Superman first. Wasn't he invented by a Canadian?
He was, but he's still American.
All right.
Because he was not like published in Canada. He was published in America to be the good old American boy. Like his origin story, he's an alien from a distant land, Canada, or I mean Krypton. And woke up and was fostered by parents in Kansas. Wow, there's a little bit more meta commentary on Superman, I guess, in that.
A little bit.
But I digress again. Moving on. Here's the deal. I'm only alive now because I've got the sense to stay on the winning side. I know what's going on out there. The Foundation is losing. I'm not a loser. And now, neither are you. I have wheels, equipment, money, contacts, and information. You've been out of the system for years, Monica. Unless you want to make a monster out of yourself, you need my help. All you have to do is not shoot me. Monica looked into his eyes, blue and cold, and made a choice. Bang! Sorry. That didn't happen, but that was my, like... As I was reading that was like the thing that popped in my head the most like prominently. It's just like she made a choice. Bang.
Yeah, I have expected the next lines to be describing his like decapitated corpse or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or even like that would have been funny if she'd even said that like to him. It's just like bang, and then it cuts to the next thing. But. And actually, so what you were saying earlier with the images at the beginning of the story, and then like when the story shifts to a different location and timeline, we get another image of like the first one's like of like mountains and forests, and then the other one's of like a ruined cityscape, about a couple pages down.
So what did you view this one as? Because it clearly wasn't a ruined cityscape to you.
It was.
Oh, okay.
Because it was a little bit more prominent there. I don't know. I like the images. I think they're good. Like they're not necessary, but they're a good little like kind of visual establishing shot for the two general locations of the story setting.
I must say they are necessary in a way because like it's a huge shift from part 1 to part 2 there, and the headers there also separate the story.
That's true.
Part 1, part 2.
Yeah, I mean, I could take them or leave it, but like, I guess more prominently, like, keep them because like the story also uses like horizontal lines to cut up like different scenes or different locations within the general bigger location, right?
Is there? I don't think there is.
There's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple of horizontal lines that break up scenes. Like after she passes out, then it cuts to a horizontal line, and then she's in the Oasis Care Center.
Yep.
So, But yeah, I do think like I'm kind of starting to lean more to like what you're just saying. Like they are actually maybe more necessary because just of how big of a scope of or change there is from like the location / timeline. Because like it's been about a year and they're no longer in like the wood, like some rural location. They're now in like clearly an urban environment. And you kind of get a sense of what that environment looks like because it's all like kind of ramshackle and ruinous and almost post-apocalyptic in a way.
Plus, it makes the story just look cool and unique.
Yeah, well, and again, that's one of the things that I've come to expect from a CadaverCommander entry and story is that like they generally tend to do like a lot of formatting to kind of like flourish and pretty up the look and layout. The graphic design really speaks to me as
like
always.
The headers that are on the top of all the SCP entries.
Yeah, and even like the use of the in this story specifically, the use of dialogue that is different because like she's talking to Norman, who's this like who's now this eldritch creature or this eldritch entity. So his like and his thoughts are like loud and telepathic and blue. So until they aren't, which I'll get to in a second, or in a moment. But yeah, again, he uses font colors and size and now images to kind of like help illustrate his story even more. And again, as a graphic designer, it speaks to me. But I'll move on. The next thing here, Monica dismissed the artillery cannons and summoned a battery of 6 surface-to-surface missile packs. She fired them all simultaneously, sending no less than 120 high-explosive missiles shrieking through the air towards the irritating freak. So it was at this point that I was just like, this is the start of me just kind of digging the superhero-esque quality of all this, like the sort of like the epicness of like this situation. And I was like, it was reminding me of all the ideas that I've come up with and I've like shared on this show and like on One Less Die, our sister podcast, of like superhero horror. And the fact that somebody is actually taking the SCP Foundation and kind of doing that, I'm like really digging that in this story. More on that in a moment. Apparently, I have a lot of things just like, now hold on, because there's some other quotes and comments and stuff that I will get to that are connected to stuff I mentioned earlier. But I have this one here. Part of her was going to miss him. The perfectly black sludge with its somehow distantly sparkling stars was almost pretty if you ignored the fact that it effortlessly devoured everything it touches. Wait, Mikey? The E stands for evil?
You didn't tell me you were in this.
What's going on here, buddy? Also, as a quick aside, I'm kind of surprised that we only get one hyperlink to an entry when it's like when this creature like this seems like an SCP entry, like an SCP entity. But I guess maybe it hasn't been like, this is a CadaverCommander original that he hasn't gotten around to making an entry for, or maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just like kind of a random like entity that he's come up with, and or what have you.
Referring to the thing that Monica was fighting.
Yeah, the Pale Man, like the warping Pale Man, with the star stuff sludge, or the Mikey sludge. Or like when she's referencing like some of the other like being the like people who have been mutated by similar like entities or like anomalies in the cafeteria. I'm surprised we don't get like entries for those as well. But again, I guess because like to me, Norman could have been afflicted and changed by that anomaly, the flying meat thing, the flying meat amalgam from the mother. Now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, it just like came up as like, wait, Mikey, D stands for evil? Is that you in there in the sludge? Or is that one of your relatives?
Yeah, probably one of my relatives.
It's Christy, the E stands for evil. But I digress. I'll move on to the something so revolving about the supervillainy stuff. You fight supervillains. I stay very far away from the supervillains and give you occasional advice. She nodded absently and stretched. Speaking of which, did you learn anything useful yesterday about the whatever? He made an apologetic expression. No, turned out to be a dead end. Guy only had level 2 security clearance when he left. I don't know what that means. There's 5 levels. The higher your clearance, the more you're allowed to know. I was level 3, and I only ever got hints and heavily redacted reports. So a level 2 guy isn't going to know anything we don't already know. What did you do with him? So there's a few things here I wanted to kind of like digest from that. I may need to dig into this canon of the SCP, the Apotheosis Foundation, or the Apotheosis canon, because this sounds right up my jam with the whole, like, again, like the superpowered like beings that are like get their powers from anomalies from the SCP Foundation. Connectedly, the whole like superpowered, like somebody getting superpowers from anomalies from the SCP, kind of, I'm pretty sure this came first, as I should probably have looked that up before I started the show today. Okay, so this came out in 2018, and just want to double check something here again.
Well, if you go to the Apotheosis hub,
yeah,
it tells you the order.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay, so this story specifically was written back in 2018. The video game Control came out in 2019. So I'm not, again, not throwing like, oh, like they're connected or like somebody ripped somebody off kind of thing. Not saying that at all. It was this story was actually giving me Control vibes because of the whole like getting superpowers from SCP-esque anomalies.
Getting specifically a gun related.
I was like, the gun thing also doesn't help because that's like straight up a power that Jessie gets in that's her main power in Control, is that she has a gun that can change to different types of guns. Not to the extent or like craziness of Monica here, also a female protagonist. But it's very similar. And then like she's also the leader of like a ragtag crew of people that are also afflicted. No, which from the sounds of it, so we recently they released some teaser images for Control 2, and Control 2 sounds like it's going to be leaving the oldest house and going onto the streets of New York.
So it's going to be open world.
Yeah, might have a like an area where might be a spot where we're actually going to be going to altered world events in the real world.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, this story was also like, on top of giving me like superhero horror vibes that like I've been kind of mulling over and craving for the last couple of years, it also gave me some serious Control vibes. And I know that's not intentional, but it's a happy coincidence to me. I also like the exposition, like how the exposition in this story is dispersed on like information about the SCP Foundation, like through character interaction, through like character dialogue and stuff. Like even the state of like parts of the world here, like about like how old Vegas and stuff like that, and like how it's become a hub for these mutants and their sympathizers. And then even like Jake here explaining like how the SCP security, like classified security rankings work. It was a nice little bit of like explaining the world of the SCP Foundation and this Apotheosis canon in general through the story, through dialogue. I enjoyed.
I do feel like that anyone reading this has probably read a fair number of SCP entries before, so probably already knows about the whole clearance level situation.
Yeah, but it's nice to have somebody in character talk about it, right?
I mean, fair. And also, he wasn't talking to us, the reader. He was telling Monica. He's telling just Monica about it, you know.
Yes, but in a story, that's how the author explains something to the reader, is by having a character explain it to somebody else.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Also, yes, just Monica. God damn it. That definitely came to mind a couple of times.
Yeah.
While the story was going on. But the next thing here, Monica scoffed. Some people just don't want help. I think some people don't want to live in the ruins of a city populated almost entirely by mutants and mutant sympathizers. The nerve. We even have running water sometimes. And we're really nice people. No, I'm really nice people. You're a big meanie. The Queen of Spades gasped. You take that back. Nope. Come on, let's get some food in you, champ. They walked away together, one silently in love, the other glad to be alive. Duh. Is this a buddy horror? Or
I guess.
Kind of, but also potentially a para-romance? That's what was going through my mind when I read this. Like, aw. Jake really I'm guessing that it meant like Jake is silently in love with Monica and Monica's just glad to be alive, unless it's the other way around.
It's framed to be that way, yeah.
Well, but Jake might just be glad to be alive because of the first encounter.
Yeah. And Jake and Monica secretly has a crush on Jake all this time. Which, yeah, again, I like how I kind of like how it leaves it like for the readers to like ship their own, do their own shipping, I guess.
You can choose your shipping method.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. Monica had accepted the role of totalitarian ruler, foisted upon her by the citizenry, but she staunchly refused many of the expected perks that went with it. Foisted? So foisted is a verb. Impose an unwelcome or unnecessary person or thing on a person, like on somebody. Again, another new word I learned, because I always thought it was just hoisted or like thrust upon. I've never heard, I don't think I've ever heard like the with an F at the beginning, foisted.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard either, but it makes sense that there's an actual word that only means that instead of using other words to refer to it, because many things can be thrusted upon.
Yeah, that's true. Which also means that you like that element of this.
Yeah, we're learning new words that only have one use.
Yeah, unlike everything else in the English language.
Yeah.
The next thing I have here, so this is in regards to like some of the characters that we meet or kind of like get described to us in the cafeteria. One had been mutated to be utterly enormous, over 9 feet tall, with cherry red skin and large tusks. He had taken the nickname Ogre, but was known to be a sweetheart despite his fearsome appearance. So he goblinized into a troll, or even like a very large Oni subvariant of the orc from Shadowrun. Sorry, Mikey.
Yeah.
Honestly, this could easily be placed in my Rexurge campaign setting. Like, this is just what happened to Las Vegas during the Rexurge. Check out our sister podcast, once again, One Less Die, to hear about the Rexurge campaign. Alternatively, any number of superhero systems or systems that allow for weird powers and monsters would work to run this as a game setting, which I kind of, again, I like the idea of this for game fodder. So like you could use like mutants and masterminds, the fate system, or even monster and other childish things. So as I was reading this, the story got me like, again, it started with that like superhero horror element that it was at the very beginning with the with her fighting the supervillainous like Warp Pale Man. And then I just started continuing that game fodder, like kind of just started like festering and mutating in my mind as I was reading the story. Next thing here, Monica had no idea where he went or where he stayed when he wasn't around. He had only been coming to the Oasis for a few months. He and Monica had been imprisoned at the same site, and she remembered him as being a quiet, contemplative kind of guy before his transformation. and she supposed that still held true, but she really wasn't sure. God, this again, continuing on my train of thought here, D-class turned into superheroes / supervillains by the SCP objects they're testing is just so cool to me. I just can't get over it. I'm sorry.
Fair.
Like, I'd almost want to run a game based on this and just call it, like, the title of the campaign is just D-class.
Yeah. Like,
and you're just
when you do your characters, would you, like, pick your favorite SCP and find out how that would transfer its anomalous effect onto you?
Yeah, no, like, just basically, yeah, like, choose your favorite SCP entity and give a person powers based on that entity. Like,
Nice.
that's how I would do it. Like, and I'm gonna continue this running thing here I have with, like, how I love this stuff with this next quote and comment.
I would choose my powers from what's his name?
SCP, the goo, the little, like, cookie eating goo.
Yeah, SCP-999.
Yeah, SCP-999. Also, we're gonna be covering that at some point this month.
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry, we're gonna do that one because he's just so cute.
He is.
So yeah, on to my next quote here. You should come around more often, Norm. You don't have to stay away and be a stranger. You've got it worse than the rest of us, but we're all changed. We're all changed too, and we can empathize at least a little bit. You're valuable, not just as a tactical asset, but as a person. You don't have to be alone. You have a family right here. You just have to give us a chance. Again, duh. This is some fucking wholesome. What kind of wholesome horror story are we reading here? No, I love it. Like, this is something straight out of, like, how I would run a Weird Kids, like, adventure or campaign in Monster and Other Childish Things. Like, there's literally, like, there's Monster and Other Childish Things is a one roll engine rule set to allow you to build characters with monster friends, and usually the monster friends are like eldritch abominations that just want to be your best friend. So basically, like, Saturday morning cartoon sort of hijinks. But there's also options in the rules for playing weird kids or creepy kids, which give you points similar to how you build a monster, but you get to, like, kind of fine tune and make your own, like, abilities that the kids can wield, not just you're not just a kid with a monster friend like Digimon or Pokemon. You are the monster, but you're also a kid. And there's various, like, campaigns in that setting or in that rule set that allow you to, like, do this. And it's kind of reminding me of this. Like, there's one, the Mysteries of Candlewick Manor, or just Candlewick Manor, I think, is one of the campaign frames, where you are a creepy weird kid who's at an orphanarium, and you end up at this orphanarium. It's kind of like turn of the century, or, like, it's a vague, like, anachronistic kind of timeline, but it's also this small little, like, valley and with a town and stuff. And there's people in the town that you can actually, like, bond with and connect with. So it's got that kind of found family, like, getting back, like kind of coming together with your weirdness to form a sort of, like, Brotherhood or X-Men sort of, like, kind of found family vibe. And again, I was getting some of that through Monica's interactions with people like Norm. So, and then we have this that's just going to completely just completely change gears for a moment. A spear of sunlight stabbed through the clouds in Monica's mind, killing her instantly. There was a smell of fresh wind and the sound of profoundly rustling trees. That was a metaphor. That was an analogy of, like, his happiness kind of piercing through the shadow. My bad.
Norman just had enough of her shit. He's like, nope, you're done.
It turns out Norman's actually, like, the villain here. Is like, by the way, like, while she has while she's got her defenses down with this wholesome conversation, I stab you.
He is a biblically accurate angel, so a spear of light is pretty, like, on brand.
Norman's spear of sunlight. Isn't that just scorching ray? Shut up.
Yes.
And yeah, so that, again, just a silly thing. that I was like when I was reading this. So I said earlier about like how CadaverCommander uses blue text for like bold blue text for Norman's like conversation or like dialogue, because he doesn't speak normally. He kind of has this like kind of booming telepathic voice that he speaks in, or like
it's all
not booming, like not booming initially anyway. Like it's like just like it's very unnerving because it's like multiple voices talking at the same time.
It's actually all caps, not bold.
Oh, is it not bold? I thought. Oh, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. It's not bold. My bad.
So he is yelling it.
Hang on. No, it is bold. It is bold, actually.
It doesn't look bolded to me.
Yeah. I pulled it into Google Docs like and didn't touch anything about it. So the formatting is the same, and it's all caps, and it's using the bold according to the font setup.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, here's something that this is an instance where I think there should be a slight change. So this is the quote. His voice was as loud as thunder, exploding through the minds of everyone in the oasis simultaneously. The cool blue glow that Norman gave became tortured and red. And then in all capped bold blue font, we get this: soldiers, hundreds, entering the wreck district from the western gate. Guns, armor, war machines. It is the Foundation. They've come for us. Their commander intends to capture the citizens of Old Vegas and kill all who resist. We must defend. We must defend our home now. So, at first, while I was reading the story and kind of getting into it, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm on Team Old Vegas. Fuck the Foundation. That aside, in terms of like going into the formatting that CadaverCommander here has set up, I kind of wish this font or like this dialogue had been changed from blue text to red text to match what he just said in the description.
That's fair. Also, I gotta say, it's a little weird that he's so like, we must defend our home. Meanwhile, right before that, he's saying like he doesn't really come around very much, and like he doesn't feel like he's a part of this place. And then all of a sudden, he's like, "Oh fuck yeah, I'm part of this place."
Well, yeah, because she was talking to him and kind of like telling him, like inviting him, like, you don't have to be a loner. Like you don't have to be such an introvert. Like you have a family here. We care about you, man. Like you're not just an asset tactically. You're an asset as a person. Like I loved that. Like I loved that line. Like you're not like you're an asset, not just tactically, but as a person.
Like yes, she did say all that, but it didn't seem like he 100% like not gave in, but agreed with her. They didn't do the you son of a bitch like handshake situation.
How do you do that with a creature that has multiple hands with eyeballs?
There's multiple options.
It's like, Monica, you son of a bitch. Slap. Ow! My eye.
Maybe that was the ray of the spear of sunlight that happened earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I guess, but I still think like it fits. Then the next one here, apparently I just go from like cool, awesome to just like silly things, because I got this one here. It's like, so this is when the army shows up with the Foundation and like it introduces the commander. Their commander, a tall man with no mask, spoke aloud. Oh no, no mask, no mask! It's the King in Yellow! Run!
Yes.
Why is he working for the Foundation?
No, the Foundation works for him. I understand.
Oh shit!
The boss showing up.
Yeah, it's the Admiral in yellow showed up. Yeah, because there's that whole thing of like all the other SCP agents, like Foundation agents, like are like in black armor and gas masks, but they're the important NPC.
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't have the mask on, so you can see his face and what have you.
It's video game and movie logic. Whoever has a helmet is a grunt that will be killed.
Yep.
And whoever doesn't has dialogue and potential plot arc.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Carmine.
Oh yeah, except for him. That's the only exception to the rule.
And even then, he dies every time.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a like even the one that didn't die initially died eventually.
Yeah, because he still did wear a helmet. You're right.
Yeah. Gears of War. Anyway, yeah, just again, the no mask part really got me with the King in Yellow stuff because in the fictional play in the book of the King in Yellow, the main character, one of the king, the cast member on the stage, they're all the cast members on the stage are told to like remove their masks, and then when the King in Yellow doesn't, somebody's like, please remove your mask, and he's like, I wear no mask. And then the person's like, no mask. And then that's when the riots start happening and the burning of the theater and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But on to my final actual thought here. We will never submit to your tyranny. We are different, but we are still people, and we will die for the right to remain free. Come and bring your hate. Bring me your conquest. Push upon us, enemies of liberty, and know our defiance. We will turn you back. We are the free state of Vegas, and we will not be moved. The free men and women thundered with their pride, their yearning to live, their right to thrive, and stood upon their ground. And Monica let herself be wielded by the heart of her people, her soul forged into the shape of the tool they needed to defend their homes and lives from those that would take them, the shape of a gun. God damn. Like just personally, like I got to the end of the story and I was just like, more please. I would like to read more of this because it was like very much like today we're celebrating our Independence Day. Like it got that like much like excitement and hype going. But
then you don't actually see the final battle. It's like you stop watching the movie right then.
Yeah. We will not go quietly into the night. Today we celebrate our Independence Day, and then there's like all like the excitement and all that stuff, and then as it starts toning down, it just fades to black and cuts out.
Yeah.
that's when the power goes out. It's like no. Now, I mean, there might be more because I mean, this is a canon, so there's more stories, but who knows?
Yeah,
There might be more of Monica, just Monica. I think it's necessary, honestly.
What?
It kind of gets the point across of what they're doing.
Like, oh yeah.
How many more battles would just kind of say the same thing over and over?
I mean, I still want to read more about this like setting.
Fair,
but that's, I guess, apparently that's just me. So,
and just Monica.
Yeah, and just Monica.
Mm-hmm.
But I will relieve myself of the microphone and the spotlight. Mikey, the E stands for evil. Take it away.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start sort of where you almost ended off with their commander. A tall man with no mask spoke aloud. So there's a reason why the rest of the Foundation have masks. So the fact that he doesn't have one probably means that he's a mutant.
Okay.
Elaborate.
Well, I don't want to get into details because it's spoilers for that link that was there.
Oh, really?
Okay.
On. Okay.
Shit. Because I actually read it because it was a link.
Wow.
How dare you, sir? To be fair, I didn't put in the email for this week. Like, we're gonna do the next like that hyperlink after. But
yeah,
I didn't warn you guys about that until we're recording. So my bad.
Yeah. So that just makes this final fight even more. I want to see it.
Okay, I'm very interested now to actually read that entry.
Yeah, me too.
But again, the problem is that this story ends before the fight.
Yeah,
like that's probably my number one complaint I want more.
Yeah. So where I was like,
Disney princess is there.
Yeah. So where I was like, I want more, please. Like I really like this. What's going on? And you're just like, kind of like, I want more. Therefore, I hate this.
Yes.
Wow. All right.
All right. And then taking it back to the first sort of transition. So we end with Monica making a choice, and then all of a sudden we're dealing with the Queen of Spades, and until it goes on that to say that Monica is the Queen of Spades, I assumed it was someone else.
Yeah. It wasn't very clear.
Yeah. I mean, it does work its way out, but I can get that.
I don't even get why that's her nickname or one of her running nicknames.
It's Las Vegas, so maybe it had something to do with the casino situation, like a cards thing. But
maybe.
Yeah, it isn't. I will give you guys this much: it isn't properly explained why she got that nickname. Like, aside from her being the queen of Old Vegas, so like the Queen of Spades, like because it's a card gambling New Las Vegas. But yeah, I kind of wish. I kind of wish that had been explained as like why she got the Queen of Spades as a moniker for Monica.
Yep.
Yeah. So that took a little bit just because until it explained it was Monica's like, oh, okay, this is the same person from earlier and not some other person. I was just sort of annoyed by that.
Okay.
So. And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Oh, okay. Kind of going back to the Queen of Spades thing. You know, what kept coming to my mind when I kept reading that moniker for her was is it like it's supposed to be a take on the Queen of Blades, i.e. Kerrigan from StarCraft?
I mean, maybe.
I because like, and again, like the Queen of Blades, like that's what her name is, like as the Zerg Queen, like the Queen of all the Zerg and stuff, who are also like mutated, gene stealing, like or like weird abominations and stuff like that in the eyes of other people. And then like again, it's very close to like the Queen of Spades, which is also I think it is a play on the whole like cards and gambling thing of Vegas.
Maybe, but
it's
there's
not.
There's nothing showing that she's like a gambler or anything. And
well,
it would be a better moniker if she, I don't know, someone shovels. If she was the best shoveler ever.
If she was in fact had Dozer's powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because well, we all know the gamer in yellow would actually be the King of Spades, because you shovel well, you shovel very well.
Yes,
yes. But yeah, I will concede, and I actually like agree with you guys. It's like I think that could have been something that maybe should have been explained while they were walking to the cafeteria, like why she has the moniker of the Queen of Spades.
And also the Baroness of Old Vegas, and
well, the Baroness of Old Vegas makes sense because she's the de facto leader of the city now.
Yeah,
like that's explained, like that she is the leader of the city by the citizenry. So she's the Baroness of Old Vegas. Like there we go, bam. But
yeah,
yeah,
a little bit of context on that would be nice.
Yes,
and they could do that in fiction of just like some new mutant shows up and that new mutant asks how she got her moniker.
Yeah.
So then she's not just telling us for the sake of telling us because we don't know.
Yeah, it's not just like the omnipresent narrator explaining that. It's actually Monica talking and telling somebody else. So,
yep.
Gamer, you're up then.
Okay, so this is
all right. Gonna get my my armor on.
Your security blanket with you?
Yep.
Okay.
It's wrapped. My safety cloak is my safety blanket that's been converted into a cloak is now on. All right.
Okay.
Lay it on me. Why do you hate this story, Gamer?
So, very first line, Monica Pinkston hefted her 150-pound rotary fire cannon over her shoulder inside. So, when I read that, I also sighed, because there's no such thing as a minigun grenade launcher. But considering the title of this, maybe this has something to do with the fact that she can make any shape of gun, real or not. So let's see. That was just my note at the time. But it started me off at a kind of like, kind of situation, you know?
Also, it's in media res.
Yeah, that too, which is something I totally love.
Yeah.
It never annoys me.
That's fair.
It does seem like the biggest battles in this are not shown. Her breaking out of the facility, which I'm sure was not easy, and the huge Lord of the Rings style battle at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, we're seeing like the sub-boss fights, but not the boss fights.
Yeah.
But I'll move on. This is referring to Monica's number is 77777. 1 hour ago, Monica had been named D77777. This has made her somewhat noteworthy in the minuscule community to which she had become accustomed. Lucky Sevens, they'd call her. So, in regards to that, wouldn't there be at least 3 more Lucky Sevens? Because there would be 7777, there'd be 777, and 77. Are they also lucky people?
Or like, would it be like, like 3 7s, 5 7s, 7 7s, or like, would it be like, would it just be odd numbers that are the lucky ones? Oddly enough.
Well, I think 7 is the generic lucky number.
Yeah. Also, shouldn't she be the lucky one if it's like 7 7 7 7 7 7 7, like 7 sevens?
We have to stop saying 7 or we'll lose it.
or the number or the term loses all meaning.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, you're right. If it was 7 sevens,
it
would be even more unique.
And that is 7 sets of 7.
Yes. Please stop saying 7.
I'm sorry.
For the love of
7. And it's interesting to note that she became accustomed to the community within an hour.
What?
It says 1 hour ago, Monica had been named D777. This had made her somewhat noteworthy in the minuscule community to which she had become accustomed.
No. Thank you, gamer, for being on my side in this instance.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
wait, no, you bastard.
Yeah.
So, no, like an hour ago, she was lucky number 7.
Prisoner.
And she was like lamenting about how like in the past, like before that hour, she had been like all this stuff had happened to her about this lucky number 7. But then an hour later, she was turned into this like super powered monster. Yeah. So
an hour ago was the escape.
Yes.
That we did not see.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my whole point with that is like, is everyone that has repeating numerals all like celebrities, basically?
I mean,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like what like D class CC or CCC 666. like, oh man, we call him the Beast.
Yeah, for sure.
Like honestly, like that might just be prison. Like at least from prisoner movies and stuff like that. That to me, that's just like prisoner rules. Like. You have a lot of recurring numbers. You get a fucking nickname based off that.
Yeah, our first number is like 12337. You call him like Gamer Boy, like something like that.
Yeah, or like 343. All right, they're Spartan.
What?
Yeah.
What was the
343 Guilty Spark?
Oh wait, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it should be Spartan.
Spartan 117.
117. Yeah, that's what it was. Wow. Halo used to be my favorite game too. Wow.
Too.
What was that D-class number of that guy that went through the portals?
Actually, I did not find his number. I found another guy's number.
I tried looking. I tried looking that up because he was also that was also the one part of a story, right? Like numbers, like names.
Yeah.
I
could not find his number.
Oh, that was in that story though.
What?
Like that was his name though, wasn't it?
There are 2 guys. I have a note on this. We'll get there.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I tried finding that the one that you're talking about, the portals, but the title of the story wasn't D something, so I couldn't find it easily.
Mhm.
And I have no idea how to even search for that.
I actually might be able to help with that because I have a half decent cataloging system of all the stories that we've read previously, including the SCP entries. So, of course,
Like, so you might be able to see if it's an SCP tale compared to an SCP, because
yeah,
I don't have them.
yeah, I have a list of all the ones that we've done, and like I mark them off when we've done them.
Yeah.
So give me a hot minute here, or a cold one, whatever.
Lukewarm, maybe.
Mhm. God, I have 16 pages of things.
I believe it. Yeah, I think in the future I might title stuff like this SCP dash in the shape of a gun, so I know that's an SCP story.
Yeah, that's what I did with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I found SCP-3379, which has the walrus. I think that's part of. Yeah. Give me a second. I gotta pull up the exploration log for D11424.
Yeah, that's the one I found.
Yeah, that's and then the
That's
numbers.
not the portal guy.
Yeah, that was.
No, it's not.
He's in a wetsuit. He goes into a portal.
Is that him?
Yeah, it goes into a concrete gate, similar in appearance to SCP-2. And then give me a second. It goes aperture. Several, yeah, where he goes through like to another reality, and then he gets picked up by some walrus people. And then
The one that
town of like weird dimensional stuff, like meets a Viking, meets some Vikings. Yeah, that's
weird, because I was scrolling through that, and it was basically the one where someone else is picking up the moniker of that person.
Yes,
but it's not the story of that person.
Okay, here we go. Numbers like numbers like stories never die. Yeah, it is the same guy. It's the same number, D11424. And that's the one where it's like the reason why D11424 is so infamous is because like it's got a lot of stories behind it. So yeah,
this story was basically an entire entry about
it. The portal one is because it's the what it is the exploration log for SCP-3379, which is the rectangular portal approximately 8 meters beneath the surface of the Arctic Ocean. And that where like they found like a bunch of weird like stuff in, and then like D11424 goes in, sees a bunch of weird stuff, almost gets killed, and then like gets dumped back out through the portal and actually survives.
Okay, but the numbers like stories never die is someone else taking on that moniker, but it's not that story of the portal. Okay,
it's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same. Like the portal is from the SCP entry. Numbers like stories never die is a separate story about how the fact that the D11424 number or designation has been recycled, and that's like what keeps creating like different, like that's why there's so many different stories about D11424.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Was this one also by CadaverCommander?
No, there's no header on it.
I'm actually gonna check the history to see who wrote it. Oh, I think it might have been Captain Kirby. Based on on the first entry that came up, yeah, it was by Captain Kirby. So CadaverCommander and Captain Kirby.
So moving on from the Lucky Seven stuff, it's kind of in the same vein, but I'll stay in it. Natural tendency was to stay invisible, learn from the life of being hammered down, like the lone nail, whenever she stuck out. But a computer somewhere had elected to make her inescapably noticeable with 5 black sevens embedded in the orange of her back like so many fish hooks. When I first read that, I didn't click immediately that it was the orange jumpsuit. I thought it's like the orange of her back's like referring to the skin of her back, like she was tattooed with all the sevens in it.
God damn it.
It wasn't very clear. But I got it immediately after.
Okay.
But either way, did people think that the other repeating sevens people were interesting too? Like, again, this is just another line that's basically saying the same thing, that if you have a repeating number in your designation, you are interesting and noteworthy.
I mean, it must be boring when you're not doing tests and just like in prison.
I get it, but they already said it once, so
yeah,
hammering home on it again immediately after is a little much.
sure.
Then when I was reading this, I was immediately having flashbacks to the stories with D11424 and all that because it's sort of similar.
Mhm.
But this, in my opinion, this is like a much less likable D class than 11424.
Really?
Yeah, I found him like he's more human, you know, and he's not like he has no bad intentions. He's just trying to survive and get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't hurt anybody, you know. He's just doing his thing and getting out.
Okay.
And there was like no bad vibes from the guy. Like at the start with Monica, she's just like murdering like all the security guards and like the one person that's trying to help her, like threatening to murder him and being like sassy and bitchy about everything
Wow.
for no reason.
I enjoyed that. Like and like yeah, she killed her way out of the facility, but like you'd have to, otherwise you're getting like taken out by their guards. And she had the chance to just completely nuke that site from orbit, but she chose not to. I say that metaphorically because like she could have used one of her big guns to basically just destroy the entire facility completely, but she chose to spare what was left.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, but yeah, like I mean, honestly, like I dug her as much as D11424.
That makes one of us because I just didn't like her attitude at the start of it.
Okay.
And yes, later on she turns around to show that she has some humanity, I suppose. But I don't know. It took a long time to get there, and at that point, I was kind of checked out.
Wow.
And then we move on. So there's the start section in the snow because it's totally in the snow because there's a picture there. And then after it jumps ahead a year with city and all that. And at that jump, it's such a huge change of pace. Like it's incredibly jarring and weird that it all of a sudden becomes an anime. Like, am I right?
Yeah, kind of, but I didn't. Again, like we're very different today, or like we are exceptionally different today because I really like yes, like it was kind of jarring, but it does eventually like explain what's going on. Again, it tossed you back into media res.
Yeah, it has 2 instances of media res.
This story was doomed. This story was doomed from the get go with you.
Yeah.
Okay, no, like that's fair. Again, like I'm gonna try and stop like countering you because like again, these are we have two very different opinions on this.
Well,
I
no,
don't
want you to keep your mouth shut and not try to change my opinion because that's the whole point of us having a discussion is trying to see each other's sides of things. And
that's why I'm keeping my mouth shut is so that I don't like. Well, you're actually wrong, and like I don't want to like overimpose on you, like to try and like to try like subconsciously to try and change your mind because like I do want to hear both of our sides of the story here.
For sure, but again, the whole point that we give our initial recommendations and then our final recommendations is because sometimes our view of a story changes depending on what we talk about. And if you just sit there quietly and just let me say everything I say, you're not going to change my mind.
But I don't want to change your mind because if you don't like the story, I'm not going to be able to change your mind.
I am not against liking the story more.
Okay.
If you show me reasons to like it more.
All right.
In my reading, this is my take of it. And if there's a better way to look at it, I'm happy to see it.
Okay.
So
I'll try, but
sit there quietly, sitting on your hands, not doing anything. It's fine.
Okay.
Moving on. Regarding the giant laser that she makes in the sky, the showstopper thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of a nitpick, I guess. It's referred to as an orbital cannon, but it's clearly not orbiting the Earth. Like maybe it's a cannon made for orbiting the Earth that she's using in orbit, I guess.
Yeah, like the way I read it and the way I heard it, it sounded like a rift opened up and like this giant orbital laser from another timeline or something it just manifested where it shouldn't be for a few moments so it could fire that gun and then dissolve back into its own reality or whatever.
That's one thing. The whole thing is she summons guns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really describe how they're summoned visually at all. the best we get is when she drops that huge gun at the start, it just kind of disappears.
Yeah.
But it's very vague.
I think that's the point, because again, it's like this eldritch, unfathomable entity that's given her this ability. And it like, even like she has this thing like these fields of guns, these rivers of bullets, this like acres of gunpowder behind her own life. Like it's,
Yeah, I get the lore behind it, but I mean visually, if I'm standing there and Monica's summoning a whole bunch of artillery, do they just all of a sudden just pop into existence? Or are they like formed through like grabbing rubble and squeezing it together to make metal and shit like that? Or what is it?
I think they just appear, because that's how it's described in the story. Like she just like, they just wink into existence. And then with the orbital gun, like I think there's like a crackling in the sky and like a rift opens up as the gun shows up. Unless I fabricated my own shotgun like Monica.
I send her hand towards the sky and move nowhere. First off, that's weird. Calling down her coup de grace, the showstopper. The air above the intruder retched in a way that was horrible to look at, and a thunderclap cracked the sidewalks as a colossal tower of turning metal appeared in the sky. So it's turning metal.
So it's like, so it's
not just there. Yeah. It's being formed.
Yeah, so it's forming from nothing, or from like metal that's just appearing out of nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see more. This is the only instance I noticed, and just only on a second reading, that it's actually trying to describe the actual summoning procedure.
I wish it
did that a little bit clearer.
Okay. I wonder if, because of its immense size, that's why we're actually able to see its transformation, how it gets summoned, because it's like, when the bigger things get, the slower things the slower things are. So like maybe like because of like it's just artillery, even the artillery guns, which are pretty big, but like they're still like small compared to like a giant orbital laser. Like maybe those just like are summoned, and like the swirling like metal that like that shapes them is just like, it's like a whir, and then it's like it's happens in like a second. So you don't get to see it or fully appreciate it. But with something like the showstopper, this giant orbital laser, it takes a little bit more time for the metals to coalesce into its form,
I guess.
Yeah.
I just kind of wish it was more visual, that's all, because the way that it is, basically just spawning stuff in like you would spawn things in a video game.
Yeah, fair.
It's a little silly in a way,
I suppose.
And then we move on to the Oasis being talked about. My question is, how did so many SCP-infected D classes all get out over the span of a year? Like, there's an entire city. Like, it doesn't say how many there are, but there are, the way it's described, many infected mutant and mutant sympathizers in this city. Like, how did they all get out?
I do agree. There should have been maybe some explanation, a little bit more. I would like to know a little bit more about how, like, people, like, maybe these are, because it doesn't say specifically D class. Like, some of them are D class, but like maybe not all of them are D class. Maybe they're just some people who have been infected by an anomaly that the SCP Foundation hasn't like acquired yet, or like been able to contain.
They all have very different powers, so it's not like in Vegas some SCP anomaly showed up and gave everyone powers and then left. It's laid out like they were all given powers by different entities.
Yeah,
kind of like,
but like
at the Foundation.
Yeah, so like, but like maybe some of them are like ones from the facility that she broke out of, and they escaped as like when she escaped. Like, because like the one guy is from that facility. But what I was saying was like maybe some of them are just like people out in the wild that like hadn't been contained yet by the SCP Foundation, and they heard about Monica and what she was doing in Old Vegas. So they've congregated like moths to a flame.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
But it isn't said in the story. I'll give you that. I do kind of wish they'd given a little bit more. We'd gotten a little bit more info about like how this community had come together. That would have been cool. But
yeah, because like just all of a sudden year time jump, and then all of a sudden this is happening.
Yeah.
If you don't mind spoilers,
yeah, I actually do in this case. So
there is a very slight explanation.
Okay.
To how there's so many mutants, and to that it makes sense why there would potentially be a community.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
Well,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
curious. So
Yeah,
my
yeah.
problems might be reading this out of turn.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
I will say when I went to look up the so I'm actually gonna take a behind the curtain here for a moment, guys, and also for my hosts. When I went to look up where this sat in the Apotheosis canon, like I checked the tales and stuff. This is technically part 2.
Great.
Part
So
1
the story
is
that has 2 instances of media res, you were also throwing the entire story itself in media res.
yes.
It's in media res within in media res section.
And to you, gamer, I am sorry.
We should be.
But we'll be reading part 1 next week because part 1 was the SCP entry that was linked in this story, and Mikey read.
Yes.
So I apologize. I found that out after I finished reading this story,
Mm-hmm.
and I was collecting my notes for this. So yeah. So not only did this story have 2 media res things that you love, like being sarcastic, but I also tossed you into media res, thus dooming this story from you ever liking it. Awesome.
A little bit.
All right, well,
I mean, shit happens. It's fine.
yeah.
But I'll move on. But yeah, in regards to the whole, just the visual of all these SCP infected D-class or otherwise people all like banding together in this town and everything like that, and how widespread it is, because the entire city of Las Vegas, that's a huge
It's actually a lot smaller than you think, but
it's an entire city that
it
has
is a
been
city, yes.
lost, and operational security gone.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, Guam was taken over by a giant flesh abomination. So like
those things happen. You're right.
But and like to be fair, like Las Vegas is kind of just as isolated as an island in the Pacific because it's in the middle of a desert. So
yeah, but also everyone wants to go there.
Yeah, so I mean, but like if there's a government disaster, if there's a disaster or like this kind of thing happening, I could see the Foundation like just kind of putting up a quarantine or exclusion zone for Las Vegas and just saying that some kind of major disasters happen in the city and there's a contamination of some kind. We need like no one's allowed in or out, and like the Foundation could definitely like keep it under wraps.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. But in regards to the whole like war that's going on with like the Foundation showing up like they're freaking like a invading army.
Yeah.
The whole visual of all this to me kind of defeats the whole purpose of SCP in general, because like it's painting the SCP to be like the most horrible people ever. And like they're not securing, containing, or protecting anything. They're just showing up and wanting to kill all of them.
No, they aren't. Well,
okay. Showing them as villains.
Yeah, because to these people who are just trying to live their own life away and free from containment and whatnot, the authoritative regime of the SCP Foundation is the bad guy to them. So like we're reading the story from the perspective of the people who are mutated, but like don't see themselves as the bad guys or as the monster. Like we're seeing it from the perspective of the monsters, and like these guys, like the Foundation are like the monster hunters and the government guys that are trying to like stop them or contain them and defeat them. So like, of course they're going to be like bad guys. They're going to be treated like the bad guys in the story.
It's just kind of weird that so many of them are like, no, we want to be free. We deserve to be free. It's fine. Like none of them realize that their superpowers and stuff like that. It's not gonna even in like superhero movies and shit. They can't just live normal lives with their superpowers in the open. You can't do that.
You haven't gotten to She-Hulk Attorney at Law, have you?
I've started to
or any of the late phase, or the Asgard, or any of the two new, or like the last like Thor movie where
Thor movie yet.
Where there's the new Asgard. Like New Asgard is a settlement of like magical beings and gods in Norway.
Yeah, but also but, like, that is
yeah.
many years down the road when horrible like supernatural and like weird villains and shit have shown up, and it's all been like the veil's lifted. Everyone knows about it anyways, and there's been huge world-ending things that have happened. The half the world's been snapped, the entire city has been lifted into the ground and slammed. Like it's not in the shadows anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Where when I think of SCP, they are keeping everything under wraps as best as they can.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing you need to remember in this case is that this is part of the Apotheosis canon. So this is the canon where like that kind of stuff is happening. Like the SCP Foundation is losing its ability to veil out situations. Like,
well, you've lost it from the looks of it.
Well, at least for this in this area, we don't know about the bigger, like the greater part of the world. Like we don't know like what else is happening in the world yet because we haven't gotten to those parts. This is also literally the first like couple of like this is also the starting of that kind of stuff. So like, of course, the city like it's starting in one city, but like it might get what
is this the start of this or is this?
Yeah, this is actually part. This is the first part of the Apotheosis canon. The part before it is just the entry, the SCP entry of the entity that's inside of Monica.
So the SCP entry is the very first entry to this entire canon.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And then this is technically the second part. And then, but like, okay, so if I pull up the website or the site page for the Apotheosis canon, it actually has it like kind of segmented into like they call them parts, but they're like more like acts of like what's going on. Hang on, we'll just pull this up here. Yeah, so on the Apotheosis hub of the canon hubs and stuff, the first wow, we get SCP-3396 like that entry, and then we get the story, The Shape of a Gun, and then the second part is another story. And then another story. And then there's another part. There's part 3, which has an SCP entry. And then another story. So it is actually like we are at the beginning. I just forgot. I just didn't realize that we need to read the SCP entry first before reading the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are actually reading
Spider-Man 2 before Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, exactly. We are witnessing the start of these changes, I guess, in this canon of the SCP Foundation's world. And actually, the description for the Apotheosis canon is an epic tale of endings, beginnings, and the often forgotten toil in between. So, like, basically, this is the end of the. My guess. This is just an educated guess on what I've seen so far for the Apotheosis canon. This story is about the ending of the SCP Foundation being in the shadows, or like all these like these mutants kind of coming to light, but the beginning of a new world. Of like the situation.
I'm just surprised how quickly it happened. Like that escalated.
It took a year. It's one city and it took a year. Like that is a long time. Like,
I don't even mean timeline. I mean entries.
Yeah.
Like technically, the first entry is entirely about the Foundation losing control and them just not securing, containing, or protecting anything anymore. We're trying to, but it's all in the open now immediately. Like there's no build up to it happening.
I guess I don't like. This is how they chose to write the story, man.
I'm aware. I'm just saying my bit.
No, that's fair. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
But anyways, I guess we can move on from there.
Okay.
Then we get on to Norman saying when he like notices that the Foundation army's on the way, he says like, "I will provide a telepathic communication network, instruct your defenders to think through me." TACnet, your favorite thing, Colby.
I don't hate it. Everyone else hates it. I know everyone else who plays Eclipse Phase hates it.
Oh, okay.
Because it gives all the players instant access to be able to like make spot checks and listen checks through other people's eyes and ears. But there is a downside to TACnet. You also get to roll sand checks if any one of you sees something horrific.
Yeah.
Because you can't immediately turn that off before you see something.
Fair.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot to bring this up earlier. In regards to just the view of the SCP Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Monica keeps referring to them as Nazis. I don't know if that's a literal or not. Like if there's been some discovery that they're actually like Nazi funded or something like that?
No, I think it's more just like a slur because like she sees again her being like she was in captivity, she was locked away, and then like tested on, and that's how she got changed. I think that's just a term that she's giving them. Because she's just like saying like they're a fascist regime because she's like they're like again they're authoritarian. Like it's their way or you die, sort of like set up. So,
well, in regards to D class. Because D class are already like shitty individuals. That's why they're D class in the first place.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still human beings. Like they still technically like okay, so like D class, like like how they're all like just criminals anyway. They can just be tested on. Like that's not how human rights work. Like that's still fucking shady.
Anyways,
it's still fucking shady. Like you still shouldn't be experimenting on a human being, even if they are going to get the not all of them were death row agents. Like she did some bad stuff, but she wasn't going to death row. They just grabbed her from the criminal scene. Mm-hmm. So like I think it's her more. Again, it's we're seeing her perspective on everything, and again the perspective of these people who want to keep their freedom away from the authoritative faction. And so that Nazi slur is more like just a slur about like fascism and like the whole like
for the being dicks.
Yeah, for being dicks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
That's probably all I got to say until final thoughts, I guess.
Okay. Also, just as a quick aside about like like D class being like on death row and stuff like that. Hey man, 11424 was an awesome guy, but like who knows what he did? Before.
Yeah, with the amount of D class, they can't all be death row.
No,
there's so many.
There's so many. I think also another like theme that I kind of like saw in this story is like it's all about like second chances. Like people do deserve second chances sometimes. And I think that's like that theme is prevalent in this story. So
I don't know. She's murdered a lot of people during her quote second chance.
To survive. Like it wasn't like she didn't want to, but she had to in order to, because that goes into philosophical questions.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying like I am super pro foundations. Like, no, it's totally fine that they can do all these experiments. It's not fucked up at all. It is fucked up, but I get it because like it's for the greater good because they're trying to understand all this shit that could potentially, destroy the entire fucking world.
Or maybe it just changes the world for the better, perhaps. The problem is the Foundation staying on the status quo and just like trying to contain it to maintain a status quo. Whereas these people want to be free. And I'm like, yeah, maybe their powers will change the world, but maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. But at least they get the chance to try. So it sounds like you're on Team Foundation and I'm on Team Old Vegas.
Well, partially, yeah. Like, again, I'm not 100% Team Foundation because I know the Foundation fucked up. Yeah. But still, fine.
Okay. Well, let's move on. With that, let's move on to our final thoughts. If it's not clear by now, I really like this. It's clear there's more going on in the background, obviously. Like, I mean, this is part 1 of the Apotheosis canon. And that this story was like kind of plucked in from this canon. Like we're getting like kind of an intro to it through this story. The way it's written, to me anyway, it was easy to collect the necessary context for the story of like the greater story at hand, and also getting to know these characters was really fun. Or like just like getting to like have some like conversations in the story with the characters, like Norman and Monica, and like Monica and Jake, and then hearing about the different other major players. Like I'd even like to see some more stories where we get to know more about like some of the spookies or the maintenance crew or the defenders. Like that might be cool, like to hear from Ogre, find out more about Ogre and his being a sweetheart but like looking fierce and stuff. But again, like it's what I've come to expect from a CadaverCommander story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd honestly like to pluck this for game fodder for a game scenario or even a setting, tabletop or otherwise. Like I could see a video game like there's so many indie games about like about the containment situation of SCP Foundation, or like somebody or an agent of the SCP Foundation going into a site that's been like breached. Why don't we have an indie game of like you're one of the D class who's gotten one of these powers and is escaping the Foundation? Like that could be really cool. And again, you could explore that in a tabletop setting as well. Like you could run it in like Mutants and Masterminds, Monsters and Other Childish Things, etc. Basically playing a person who is on the run from a totalitarian government that wants to contain you and like for your powers and stuff. And you're just trying to live your own life with these new things that you have to deal with. So, and it has the perils of all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I still recommend this one. Like, nothing's changed on my end. I still love this one. So, but that's just my recommendation. Mikey, the E stands for evil. Take it away.
Right. Well, I enjoyed it for the most part. I didn't like that one transition, like I mentioned. And the biggest downside for me is that we're at the end. It's about to be an epic battle, and it ends.
Yeah.
Like, next time.
But
next
we don't
time
know
on D-Class Battle.
Yeah, but we don't know if there ever will be a next time. Although there are more stories that's set in this universe, we don't know if there's actually one that has this battle.
Yeah,
probably not. But yeah.
Yeah.
So it just all this build up and then no payoff.
Well, sorry to interject, but I also wonder if like maybe the battles and stuff of the story, like, well, we do get like one little like fight between her and the Pale Man guy.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this is more supposed to be like maybe CadaverCommander wanted to write this as more of just a character piece to kind of get the characters' opinions and like kind of get the character like the setup for what was going to be coming for the Apotheosis canon. Rather than just, write a story about some big old explosions and fighting and stuff like that. Like that's fun, but that's not what they wanted to tell in the story. What they wanted to tell in the story is this sense of community that's on the ropes as the Foundation is encroaching in on their turf, and other mutants who are out there that are not as friendly as they are. So
it feels like the whole vibe of the story is like explosions, combat, guns, millions of guns, and then like they're lightly used, kind of.
Well, it's there, but like that's their abilities, and that's the reason why they're in this situation to begin with. But again, like it kind of rings like a character piece where we're getting a sense of this situation that this community finds itself in, and that's more important than the big battles. Like that's where I'm coming in from this story is like the battles would be fun. I'd love to read them, but to me, like, and as much as I'd like to read them, they're not necessary for me necessarily.
Necessarily necessary.
Yes, it's like 7. It's the word of the day.
Yeah.
But that's just me devil's advocating on this, on like the whole like we should have been able to read more of the fight. But,
yeah. Well, and I also would have liked more of a transition, like more story of how she got to Vegas. Not just, oh, there's this guy that says we should be part of something better, and then suddenly they're in Vegas.
1 year Yeah, he's got a doom buggy. He's got connections. And then 1 year later, she's the boss. She's the mayor of old Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas also isn't a thing anymore for reasons.
Yeah. Also, the way I said that, it almost sounds like she's the boss of old Vegas. He's her secretary.
You're doing like trailer guy voice.
Yeah. Tonight they fight crime in a world gone mad.
Yeah. So overall, it's still a partial recommendation.
All right. And then we go on to Gamer.
You sound so disappointed.
I mean, I kind of am, but I get it. Like, I understand. Like I understand why you didn't like the story as much as I did. from what we've talked about here. So
okay, at least that's come across and you understand.
yes, I may not agree with it, but I understand.
Yeah, and like part of the reason that I didn't interject during, not that I'm having a problem with you talking right now. Please don't think that.
Honestly, that's exactly what it sounded like. It's like, not that I was gonna, like, the reason I didn't interject with you're talking about.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
I know, but the way it sounded, like there's like my brain immediately went there, and I had to slap my brain. It's like, no, stop it.
But the reason that I didn't interject with what you were saying and try to change your thought is because I agree with you. The story itself, as an actiony sort of story like this, is good. But the problem is, that's not what I wanted. You see, when I read an SCP. This is so outlandish. It's not what I come to my favorite website, scp.wiki.wiki.com. Like, there's no grounding to it. Like, it's not street level at all anymore. It's an Avengers movie. It's not an SCP story.
Yeah, I can kind of see that because like there's actually a very similar example that comes up with Delta Green, the Call of Cthulhu, like the modern Call of Cthulhu like group that is trying to like stop the mythos while also keep it away from the public eye. It would be there's a story that comes up where like somebody at Gen Con was talking to the developers, and Delta Green again is supposed to be like espionage and trying to like stop the mythos, like one cult at a time or one like monster in the woods at a time, kind of grounded in like reality of like the bureaucracy of the government and stuff. And apparently this one guy, he's like, yeah, my group, we're running a campaign of Delta Green where like Alphonse from A-Cell, the big top guys of Delta Green, like leadership, showed up. It's like, all right, it's time to take out Cthulhu. And then the Harrier carrier, or the giant flying Harrier, like from like Avengers, showed up, and they got like a bunch of armaments and stuff like that, and just went out into the South Pacific to stop Cthulhu. And the developers kind of laughed at it, and it's like, well, I mean, I guess if everybody at the table's having fun, like that's fine. But I mean, that's not what we envisioned Delta Green to be like.
Yeah, it's too ridiculous.
Like, yeah. Now, I do have a question for you, gamer. Is this more outlandish and weird to you to be reading in SCP than Joey Fucknuts?
Yes.
Really?
It is. Because it's the scale. This is an entire city of a whole bunch of loose SCP entities or people affected by it. It's a huge outbreak where Joey Fucknuts, yes, it is a town of guys, but they are still contained. Joey gets out, but they are still contained. The Foundation is still doing their job. And that's what I like about SCP in general, is the level of potential immersion. Because the SCP can do their job, because they're not operating out of fucking Derpland, that's how you get potential immersion in this, because this could be happening, but we as real people don't know about it because it's all being secured, contained, and protected from us.
Yeah.
But when it's a whole bunch of entities getting out, an entire town getting taken over, and that going to be that's going to be a thing that's going to contain or continue to be taken over, and there's going to be more that happens because this is episode 1. They're not going to just put them all away and then we'll move on to something else. This is it's such a
different break.
Yeah, it's such a fork in the road from what I expect from SCPs, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just going into it, I did not expect it to be like this.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, because like the thing to understand for this is like this is an alternate universe basically where the Foundation isn't able to keep things under wraps, and it's basically like this is the timeline. This is the dark timeline for the SCP Foundation, anyways, where all of their hard work is crumbling around them.
Yeah,
and I find that interesting. But yeah, I can see why. Like, because you like the status quo, you like to keep it like plausible, because like this stuff is happening. Like this like for your immersion level of like this fictional universe, this could be happening in our world because they're keeping it under wraps from everybody else. Whereas this story is kind of proposing, well, what if they couldn't veil out everything? Like,
I do like what ifs,
Mhm.
because a lot of the times I think of what if this was different this way, and I like that. But again, going into this, I did not expect this, and it is strange. But now that I know that's the whole point of this entire canon, and me remembering that, right, there are multiple canons in SCP. It's not,
Yeah.
they're not all the same timeline and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit more accepting of this, knowing that in hindsight.
Yeah.
But, and yeah, like we talked about Guam being taken over by the entity known as Guam. Like, yeah, that is huge, but that is one outbreak of one entity that they let out, and oh shit, bad things are happening.
Yeah, but also I'm pretty sure Guam is bigger than but Las Vegas. But anyways, yeah, sorry,
that's not what I'm getting at. It's not the scale in that situation. It's not the landmass of scale. It's the scale of failure of the SCP Foundation as a whole. Because they let one out. Oh no, we have to try to fix this. Oh, we're losing. This is not going well. Like, that's fine. But if it's like, oh no, one person got out because she got gunned, and then this other guy got out because he can dig the ground real well. And then, you know,
and then this guy got out because he's a biblically accurate human being.
Yeah, like they're constantly failing, and it's like, why are they even here? How did they keep this going for so long if they're all of a sudden failing?
I mean,
and what's causing that catalyst all of a sudden to start happening now?
I think that's what we need. I think honestly, like that's what would help massage this for you. I think a lot is if we had a reason, or if you were able to like be given an explanation as to why the SCP Foundation is unable to keep this contained.
Yeah. Like maybe they got to some entity that like affected a lot of their higher ups and like was controlling them, and it let a whole bunch of them out or something like that.
Gamer, that seems implausible. I mean, they're doing great work here.
They are. They're doing work.
And who knows? Maybe SCP-3396 will give us a little bit more insight into the danger of why the SCP Foundation is losing in this scenario.
Yes, and based on what Mikey said, a lot of, or at least some of my my problems will be fixed when I read that, and we'll see.
Yeah.
But for now, like, maybe I'm being a little harsh with a straight no. Because
man, like if you did not care for the story, like I don't want to change your mind necessarily. Because again, this is like if somebody thinks like Gamer, like maybe they won't like the story. If somebody thinks like me, maybe they will. If somebody thinks like Mikey, maybe they'll give it a shot. Who knows? 50-50. So
yeah, for sure. But I am going to slightly change it, not from a straight no to like a very low partial, because like the story itself as an action sort of story, I enjoyed that. But that's not what I came here for, and that's why I was so against it. But as an action story, it's good, but there's no horror in this. The only horror is the fact that there's a biblically accurate angel there. Like, if you remove that, then there's zero horror.
It's
just a superhero story.
It's weird fiction, is what this is. This isn't necessarily a horror story. There's aesthetic horror elements, like again the mutants and the monsters, and like how they're like again the biblically accurate man. But like it's more or less like it's mixed in with like action and sci-fi, which makes it more of a weird story weird fiction story than a horror fiction story. Which SCP Foundation tends to kind of go wishy-washy, like weird fiction to like horror to sci-fi. So yeah,
like Joey Fucknuts felt like more horror than this, you know?
Yeah,
because they're zombies and everything, and we have to try to figure out like why that's happening, and like there's at least a visual of it, you know, even though they're acting like normal dudes.
Yeah, but I mean, like a zombie is just a mutant, really, in some capacities, to like because it's something that was a normal thing, like a dead person, and now is alive, which is abnormal. Yeah. So, but yeah, I get you. I get what you're getting at here. So
yeah. Either way, I will give it a low partial just because as an action story, it's good, but as an SCP story with immersion and as someone who does not like being thrown in media res 3 times, no.
Fair.
Yes.
Well, and to be fair, that 3rd time was on me.
Yeah, okay. But you didn't cause the first 2.
Yeah. All right. So a full recommendation and I guess 2 partials, with the last one being a low end partial recommendation.
Yeah.
Um,
Who knows? In hindsight, after reading the first one and after getting, if we're going to be doing multiple in this canon, I might warm up to the whole idea of this more. But in the future, in this canon, I'm going to go in with a little bit less of a focused. It has to be standardized SCP style because this is a what if scenario.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, and I definitely would like to start. I am interested in the Apotheosis canon, so I would like to cover it at some point. Maybe not soonish because we've got some things, but maybe for another month or maybe some down the road we'll do another month of entries that are just from the Apotheosis canon. So, but rest assured, we will come back to the Apotheosis canon. Actually, technically starting next week when we do SCP-3396. Anyway, that has been this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, wherever this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. Let us know what team you're on, Team Foundation or Team Old Vegas. And you can do that on Twitter. You can send messages to us. We're there for as long as it's around. That's sort of in flux at the moment. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah, it's got to be.
No. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us messages and emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Or you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! Gamer, it didn't work again. I got yeah. All right.
Is that working?
Kinda. It was. I'll edit it in. I usually have to shift us align the yeahs together so that we're both saying it around the same time anyway. So
normally I try to say it half a second before you to try to compensate for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void of Starfield. That is Christie, the E stands for evil.
Yeah, apparently.
And without your authorship, CadaverCommander, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we wouldn't have anything to talk about, for good or bad. Honestly, again, we wouldn't have this conversation about why we like this story or why we didn't like this story. So thank you.
Yeah, maybe think about what is it's letting me be more open about all this, because I was going into all SCPs with a very strict, focused, very strict kind of mindset. It's this has to be immersive. This has to be for realsies.
Yeah,
but that doesn't always have to be the case.
No, sometimes it's fun to see it from the perspective of D class who have been mutated into SCP monsters or what if worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.
By the way, does this type of yeah come in better if I just say yeah?
Yeah, that came in perfectly.
Okay, maybe I'll just do a more chill yeah from now on.
Yeah.
Hell
It's like,
yeah.
hell yeah. It's like that the mellow version of Power Thirst is like Mother Nature will be like, slow down. And you'll be like, fuck you. And kick her in the face with your energy legs.
Mm.